couple months ago, I guess, Father Mattia approached me about possibly speaking here tonight. And I didn't hesitate very long, and I said, yes, I get the opportunity to give a sermon to a dozen priests. Turn the tables here a little bit, so I'm pretty excited to get this opportunity. I do get the opportunity to speak to a number of different schools. I didn't know it, but being on the U.S. Olympic bobsled team comes with a lot of perks, and one of those is getting to talk to a number of different schools and kind of spread my message, usually about bobsled, and then slip in a message, about how reading is good or drugs are bad, and so I get this opportunity a lot. I don't get the opportunity to talk about bobsled and how my faith has played a role in my bobsled career very often. So on a serious note, it really made me excited to get this opportunity to speak to you tonight. When I do give a talk about bobsled, I usually, show a video, and I have to explain what bobsled is, because to most kids, they watch bobsled for about 10 minutes once every 4 years, and that's about it. And they don't even watch the movie Cool Runnings anymore. So when I talk about bobsled, I show a video, and it looks really exciting, and then I ask, kids, how many of you want to try bobsled? 500 hands go throwing up in the air, and I say, does it look like fun? And they all scream, yes, yes, yes. And then I have to tell them this fact, and it's usually disappointing and surprising, but bobsled is not fun. There is zero fun in bobsled. They think of sledding as, going out to the local hills, maybe the Platte River Valley or whatever it is, and getting to go for about a 3 or 4 second bobsled ride, that they call it. Bobsled is terrifying. Bobsled is scary. I didn't know it at the time when I tried out for bobsled. I grew up in Shelby, Nebraska. It's a town of now it's grown to about 700 people, so it's a pretty big metropolis. Growing up in Shelby, what we called sledding was tying a saucer sled to about a 40 to 50 foot rope to the back of a three-wheeler, not four-wheeler. Driving around in the fields and the pastures and sometimes the streets of Shelby, and that's what we called sledding. So when I was growing up in Shelby, I didn't plan on becoming a bobsled. It didn't really come to me until I was done playing football, or practicing football. I didn't play football, but I practiced it. At that time, I realized that I needed to try something new. Growing up in Shelby, I had a great support system. The community was amazing. And I didn't know it at the time, but that's one of the steps that got me into the U.S. bobsled team later on in life. While I was growing up, we went to Mass every weekend. I went with my parents. I went to CCD all the way from first grade all the way through senior year. I was a server, participated in Mass, and I really feel like I had a great faith base. Came to UNL, and I attended the Newman Center. I became an acolyte while I was attending here as an undergraduate. And as I grew, I studied electrical engineering. I thought I had a path laid out for me. I was going to become an electrical engineer. Now, not many football players become electrical engineers, but I knew that going to the NFL wasn't in my plan. It just wasn't going to happen. I felt that I was a pretty good athlete, so I wanted to continue to be athletic, but I didn't really see my path. I really didn't know why. I met a girl named Amanda Morley, and she used to run track at Nebraska. She was big, strong, powerful, and really a great athlete. She ran the hurdles, the short distance hurdles, and she also threw the hammer. Now, if you know anything about track and field, that's kind of a weird combination. She was that strong and that fast and that powerful. She was recruited to be on the U.S. women's bobsled team. I had just finished playing football. I was still working out, met Amanda, and she talked me into joining the U.S. men's bobsled team. That was a scary thing. All my friends, all my football teammates, they were doing what was expected of them. They were growing up, getting their degree, getting married, starting families, again, following their path. I was doing that up to a point. Then I realized that this isn't right. I need something more. I'm trying to kind of fill a void in a way. So I hopped on a plane and I flew to Calgary, Canada. And that's where the U.S. men's team was training at that time. And Amanda hooked me up with the head coach and said, this is the process you're going to have to follow to make the team. On that flight, something pretty special happened. Again, I was pretty scared. I didn't know what was in front of me. On that flight, I remember listening to a CD, a Walkman Discman. It was the fall of 2004, so quite a while ago. But while I was on that flight, I remember listening to this CD and just kind of being in this element. And I don't know how to explain it other than I was scared. There's a lot of things that lay in front of me that were really unknown. I didn't know if I was going to get off that plane, meet this coach, go through this trial process. He was going to laugh at me and send me home within 24 hours. I didn't know if I was going to land, meet this coach, go through this trial process, and end up winning an Olympic gold medal. I figured somewhere in between, but I wasn't really sure what lay ahead of me. It was pretty scary. I look back at that moment, being on that flight, as the pivotal turning point of my life. I could have been scared. I could have landed and let fear take over my life. And actually, Governor Ricketts, at our table here a little while ago, we were talking about something that happens in the brain that triggers fear. And for whatever reason, I decided that fear wasn't going to be an option. I was going to, whatever happens, happens. God played a role in that. I look back and I think that I was able to, as Lizzie said, kind of surrender that moment and look out and say, I don't care what happens. I'm going to do my best and see where it takes me. The rest is kind of history, I guess. But before that happened, there was many other roles in which my faith played a role in bobsledding. Kind of on a softer side, I guess, going back to the fact that bobsled is a scary thing. Now, I know that very few of you have probably ever seen a bobsled in real life. I always like asking this question. How many of you have seen a bobsled in real life? Okay, I see about maybe 6 hands at the most. And that's usually 5 more than I usually expect. Bobsled is not the most popular sport in the world, and most people that think of bobsled either think of Cool Runnings, or again, they think of the 10 minutes when bobsled is popular every 4 years. But bobsled is a very scary thing. I'll try to paint this picture for you. First of all, you're wearing nothing but spandex in freezing temperatures on a mountain. That's going to be the scariest thing. But as you're up there, getting ready to push this sled. I was a push athlete for most of my career, which meant that my job lasted about 4, maybe 4.5 seconds, and that was it. In order to do my job, I had to put fear aside. I had to look over this cliff, look down, and forget about the unknown. I had to forget that there's so many things that I can't control. I have to release whatever anxiety that I have in order to do my job to the fullest extent. If I have an ounce of fear, if I concentrate on what could happen in front of me, knowing that our 450-pound sled could crash on any one of the 20 curves moving at 80, 90, 95 miles an hour, then I'm not going to be able to do my job. If I let fear control me, again, it's never going to turn out to be as I would like. I'm not going to be the best push athlete that I can be. So looking over this cliff, knowing that I can't control 90% of what's going to happen, I can only focus on that 10%, that's a scary thing. So what do we do when we're scared? We pray. I learned very early on that my faith is going to make me a better bobsled. I learned that from the short walk between our start house or our locker room to the start line, that's when I'm going to say my prayers. That's when I'm going to say 2, maybe 3 Hail Marys at the most. It's a short walk. And as I'm doing that, I'm not going to pray for my performance. I'm going to pray for my safety, because bobsled is a scary thing. I'm going to pray for my driver's ability to control our safety. Again, that's out of my control. When we're going down in a bobsled, it's a violent ride. Again, I don't want to completely scare you away from the sport, because it's pretty exciting at the same time. But as we're going down in a bobsled, again, we're going 80, 90 miles an hour or more, and we can crash on any one of the curves as we're going down this hill. As we crash, it's a 450-pound sled that slams on top of us. Gravity is still going to do its job. So even after we crash, we're still going to slide on our helmet, on our shoulder, as we get out to the finish line. My first crash happened within a week of my initial tryout. I was pretty scared. I'm pretty proud of this reaction. In my crash, instantly, I started saying Hail Marys as we were upside down, sliding at 80 miles an hour to the finish line. We always joke, and it's not really a joke, but we always talk about how there's one of 2 things that happen while you're riding in the back of a bobsled. It's either praying or swearing. My reaction was to say prayers. And I remember my first bobsled crash in Lake Placid, New York. I was able to say about 3.5 Hail Marys by the time I hit my head and my shoulder on the ice to the time our sled came to a stop. So that's a long car crash, if you're thinking about it. So I learned that my faith needs to be a part of my everyday job, my work that I did, because I was a professional bobsledder for 10 years. That was my full-time job. So looking back, I understand that probably the majority of us in this room are not going to become professional bobsledders. But we all have a job. We all have some kind of career. We all have something that we do day to day. We can tie our faith and take our prayers into our everyday job, into our everyday life. That's something we can all do. And so that's what I learned from bobsledding, how to tie my faith into my everyday life. The third time my faith came into play when I was a bobsledder was after I retired. I don't like using the word retired because it sounds like I should be collecting Social Security or something like that. When I quit bobsled about 4.5 years ago after the 2014 Olympics, it was a scary time. Once again, fear came into my life. As I was preparing for the 2014 Olympics, which were held in Sochi, Russia, everything that I did was going into those games. This was going to be my third Olympics. I won a gold medal in 2010. I was expecting to have a pretty similar outcome for the 2014 Olympics. I knew how to train, I knew how to prepare. It was very selfish. And I say that in kind of a good way, but to be the best athlete that I could be, I had to focus on what I was doing all the time. Everything that I ate, every meal, every waking hour, every sleeping hour was geared toward bobsledding. I was always focused on how am I going to recover for my next workout? How is my next workout going to help me become a better pusher? So on and so forth. So everything was focused on February 23rd and 24th of 2014. Obviously, these are dates I'm not going to forget. Those 2 dates in February were everything, again, all my energy was focused into those 2 dates. Those 2 dates of our race came and went. We won a bronze medal. It's pretty exciting. That's great. After that, time goes forward. What was I going to do? My entire life, I was a bobsledder. Well, not my entire life, but my entire 10 years up to that point, I was a bobsledder. That's what I was known for. I was good at it. Now I was empty. My body couldn't continue to be at that elite level. I couldn't continue to train there. My knees and back were starting to fail a little bit. I was getting old. I was 35. So I was having a tough time figuring out what I was going to do. Came back to Nebraska. Very humbly, I moved in with mom and dad. It's not an easy thing to do at that age. And I was lost. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was given a pretty fortunate opportunity to come back to the University of Nebraska and speak to the engineering seniors that year that were just getting ready to graduate. And as I was walking through campus, I realized I'm kind of homeless. I don't have a job. Here I am trying to be a role model and guide these engineers on what to do. I have an engineering degree. In fact, I had my master's degree by that time, but I never worked as an engineer. I wasn't a professional engineer by any means. What was I going to tell them in order to guide them to be the best engineers that they could be? My experience wasn't something that they could really relate to. So I started thinking about what I was doing on campus, and I actually happened to walk by the Newman Center at that time. There was some construction going on, and there was a lot of changes being made, and I realized that, man, this is still home, even though it looks different. Campus was different, but my anchor, my base, was still here. There were familiar faces. There were a lot of friends that were still in Lincoln. Things have changed. My friends and even my family. I had grown up quite a bit. My friends had families and that sort of thing. But this was still home. This was my base. And I realized that all my life, my entire bobsled career, my entire childhood, I had that base in faith. And so coming back to Nebraska, coming back to Lincoln, and coming back to the Newman Center was home. And it was a great feeling being able to come back and see that in so many different ways. Whether it was at the stadium, a lot of changes that happened there. Whether it was in the engineering department or at the Newman Center. A lot of things had changed, but a lot of things were the same at the same time. And so I realized that the support that I had all the way through made me the bobsledder that I was. Again, nobody's going to have that story. Again, I understand that the far majority of students in this room are not going to become professional bobsledders. They're going to become professionals in something else. But the faith that they are based in here at the Newman Center is going to carry with them forever. And I was able to do that through bobsled. That's a very weird story. Again, I understand. But whether students now become nurses or they become CPAs or engineers, whatever it is, they're going to have that faith with them. And that's because of your support in things like this tonight. And I think that's an amazing feat, and it's an amazing journey. It's an amazing opportunity. Again, I came back and I was able to realize that. So many people aren't given that opportunity. But because I get that chance, I'm very grateful. So for that, I want to thank you for coming here tonight. I want to thank you for, in a weird way, making me the bobsledder that I was for 10 years. And it was an incredible feeling. It was an incredible journey. And it's still continuing to this day. But at the same time, students that are here in this room tonight, you may not get the recognition that I do, for being an Olympic bobsledder. You may not get a medal for doing your job to the elite level. But that's regardless of what you do. Okay? Having that faith with you is the most important thing. And taking that with you, again, is something that's pretty special, pretty incredible. So with that, again, I want to thank you for coming here tonight, being very generous, and really giving back in the best way that you can. So really appreciate it. Thank you very much.